Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Inspires. And today our storyteller is Jacqueline Malcolm-Peck. She is going to be sharing the story about picking up the mantle of finishing and publishing her mother's memoir. A Story of Love is the first book in a series that her mother has handed over to her as a legacy and a way of getting her story out to the world. So without further ado, I want to welcome Jacqueline to the show. Thank you, Jacqueline, for coming up today.
Thank you, Gina, so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So just a little bit of backstory. You are the youngest of three children of your mother and father. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And your mom had some severe health issues. And I would like you to welcome us into the story in that month that you spent with her close to the end of her life and kind of give us an idea of what it was that happened during that month that led to your task of carrying the mantle of your mom's memoir.
Yes. So I had just finished up my sophomore year at Pepperdine University, and I went back home for a month to be with my mom. And I was going to spend the rest of the summer in Edinburgh for a study abroad program. So this was kind of my time to really be able to spend with her and just, hang out with my mom, because I don't really have that much time normally. So when I spent that month, she kind of just was able to talk to me and explore what she was doing. And she had never done that before with her book and sharing her story. She had written it when I was a little girl, all throughout when I was, 3 years old to when I was 20. So I was finally able to understand what she was doing. And I was so grateful for the chance to hear kind of what she was working on. And she had told me that she had been working backwards. So she had 6 manuscripts and she was feeling just super over her head. And she didn't really know how to put it together into one book she originally thought it was going to be. So we were going through just page by page being like, how does this fit together? What story do I really want to portray? Because there's so many messages in the book. So she didn't know initially what exactly she wanted to tell. So we worked backwards for that month, and we were able to start the 6th draft and just go kind of line by line, page by page, and fit the story together. And I was kind of understanding her message and what she wanted to portray. And I had never really understand that insight before. So not only did I get that time just one-on-one with my mom, and I was on her farm in northern Colorado, so we just were completely isolated in the middle of nowhere, but I was able to really just know her thoughts and what she was thinking. And I was a little bit older, so I could kind of understand more what she was going through, and not to be, scared of her health issues, and to know that, she was okay and she had this strong foundation as a person. But finally, she kind of opened up this story, and I was able to kind of know how to take it forward. And I remember sitting with her, I'm like, how are you going to do this? Like, this is, thousands of pages of manuscript, and you want to, make it one book. So yeah, I was initially extremely daunted, and I had no idea where to start. But at least she kind of let me in on why it was such a struggle for her to publish it. But that was always her goal. And that was what we saw growing up. She's like, if I can just publish that book, that would be everything to me. So her dream became our dream, and we just wanted that for her. So I was able to know her more and understand where she was going through with the book, and just this isolation together. So it was I just cherish that time so much, more than anything else. So I'm so grateful for that month.
Now, you went away to Edinburgh, and
Yes.
What happened after you left?
So I spent 4 weeks in Edinburgh, and I studied at the University of Edinburgh Business School. And that was just the most magical place. I love those people, the curriculum. And I kind of had this feeling, you get this feeling of foreboding a little bit I never had experienced it before, but it was just like this deep melancholy that I couldn't really shake. And it kind of lasted for like a couple days. And I was in the middle of class and my dad called me, and I just knew, I just knew. And I remember just like screaming a horrible, horrible word, and went downstairs, and, dad's like, mom passed away. And that kind of has changed everything the last 4.5 years. So that started this new journey. And I took the first flight back home, back to Denver, and my twin sisters and my dad were also out of town in Chicago on a business trip. So no one was home. And I think that's exactly the way that she wanted to go. She didn't want anyone to see that. She didn't want anyone to have unnecessary pain. And I think that really helped us in the grieving process, at least to be ignorant to that side of it. I can't imagine if I was actually there home when it happened. So that sort of separation really helped my healing process, I think. So that, as much as I want to be there, I think that was for a purpose, to be able to understand that there is some sort of healing in not being there when that happened. So even though I wish I could have been, I think reflecting on it, that was definitely the best move for all of us, to not be there when it happened. So she went away in her sleep. So it happened the best way it could, for sure.
Let's talk about the legacy, because this book, this series of books that will come out, is all about legacy.
Yes.
So let's talk about, what is the legacy that you feel your mother has left, and how she left that legacy to you, and how that's currently impacting you in your own life.
Well, yes. So, growing up, she always teaches us a spirit of resilience and a spirit of creating the life you want to live. So we would always be visualizing our goals, what we want to accomplish. If something went wrong, we would recreate what we want to have happen in the future. And it was very much the practice of being conscious of our thoughts, being present in the moment, having this unconditional love and forgiveness for one another. So we had this foundation that she gave us growing up. And so we kind of tried to adopt that even more when she passed away, and just being able to understand how different we all are in our grieving process, to carry that resilience through, and to just give us the space and the time that we need, and to know that, all things pass, all pain passes, but you have to allow yourself to change, and you have to know that good is going to come from it. So when this happened, and this major life event happened, and my sisters and my dad in my life, I knew part of me just wanted to run away. But, the spirit that she left me, her strength, and knowing that you kind of have to run to the fire, I wanted to be home in order to just, grieve with my family, and to see, hey, like, what's really in this book? What can she teach me? And I just felt her, kind of holding my hand through the whole process, and knowing that just to be with the pain and to understand the root of it is how you heal. You can't be afraid of feeling it, but you really have to be in that moment and feel it, because it will come, you'll feel it someday. So you might as well grieve now. And that's kind of how I've been able to be okay 5 years later, and not have this, huge wall bear down on me suddenly later. So I've been able to deal with it step by step alongside my family. So we've carried and kind of grown and built this foundation that she gave us, and united together, and just giving us ourselves grace, and giving grace to one another, which she really gave us. Even though we're very different people, we still try to see through that lens of unconditional love that my mom always saw us through. And so we've been able to carry her strength and her ability to see the good in people, even when you can't see it in yourself all the time. So we've been able to grow in that, and even, forward, I'm able to have like so much hope for my life because I feel this love with me that transcends anything. I feel this love for a stranger walking down the street as much as I do sometimes for my own family members. And that's just through the simple, love of God and how he is able to pour through you when you feel like you have nothing left. You're able to build up just because he is with you and it's not your own strength. So I've been able to tap into that more, which I never felt when she was here, as much as I felt the love of God with my mom not here, because I've had to look for it so much and I know that I need it so much, and so I try to, my own spiritual growth has been reflective of my mom's journey as well, and kind of seeing her walk through this process in the book. It's really been a similar journey for me, at least, to just try to search for it because I really need that to live with and to have hope. Because it was dark for sure for a few months. But you realize it's a choice how you live. And I just have to choose to live with gratitude because there's really no other way to live. When you feel the other side, you're like, you're desperate for it, and you have this intensity to focus on the good in your life, because it feels so bleak without it. So yeah, it's just this practice and it's a habit, and that's something I'm so grateful to have the foundation my mom gave me, and I can just hone in on that and make it my own. Make my faith my own and have the traits that she gave me to really step into that and to really know who I am more because of that. So she laid this incredible legacy to pass on, and we're able to give that love and everything she gave us for each other, and how we need to act as a family to reunite, and also the people who come into our lives and the relationships and the friendships that we have in our daily life. So she's impact every single area of my life for sure.
As I was reading the story, as a mother, I was thinking, wow, I can't imagine being as detailed and as honest and raw as your mother was.
Yes. Wow.
And then handing it to my youngest child and being like,
right.
Okay, I want you to carry this, and not just carry it, but tell other people. Because that's essentially what you're doing when you're writing the book. You are opening up your family's truth and struggle to the world. And so tell me a little bit about what it was like to take on that mantle and then see things through your mother's eyes. And I mean everything, the hard things especially.
Everything.
One thing to be like, I remember all the good parts, but to see the difficulty and the pain and the struggle through your mom's eyes, and then being willing to have the courage to write it down and put it out there. What was that like for you?
I wanted to hide at first. I was like, whoa, no, it's not what I was expecting. Hold on. But I really like how you said willingness to see the bad parts, because I think when someone passes away, all you really reflect on and remember are the good moments and, the things that you felt they gave you. And it's really important to be able to feel their whole journey, because when we reflect on our past, normally we remember all the good that's happened, but in our day-to-day, we feel more of that struggle. So, we're feeling this battle sometimes in the day-to-day. So when you're reflecting on someone's life who's meant the world to me, she's the most important person in my life, to know that she had this great triumph through everything, it just makes my day-to-day and everything I think is an obstacle, and I know I can overcome it, and I know there's triumph at the end. It's not just something that I hope or I believe. Like I know there will be triumph. So being able to reflect through all this nitty gritty, and especially the relationship that my mom had with my dad, they both loved each other so much. They were They were together since my mom was 18 and my dad was 22. They met on this ski slope in Eldora in Colorado, and they just, were married for 35 years. But they had their ups and downs, and I realized that it is just, commitment is a choice. And you are always going to, have, major things that happen to you. But what my mom revealed to me was this unconditional love. And when I read the book after things happened, I realized that there was this, major affair. And we had no idea about any of that when my mom was alive. So when I first was going through that, it was really shocking. And I was mad at my dad for a while and confused, and I couldn't talk to her about it. So that made me more pent up about it. And I didn't really talk about it much with my family members. It was kind of this unspoken thing that had happened. So for me to just hear my mother's voice through her words is just the greatest gift, to know how she forgave and how she was able to let go of something that, caused this massive heart attack, as she describes it in the book. It's this beginning of what faith meant to her, the forgiveness that God gives us every day. Allowed mom to begin that journey to forgive my dad and to continue to pour out that love. And I remember her telling me she always thought, 20 years writing this book, that the story of love was going to be just about my dad and their relationship. But she realized the whole point really was her journey of faith with God and walking with Jesus alongside. But this great relationship she had with my dad changed so much throughout the years. And as her faith journey grew, so did the relationship with my dad. So it was this unexpected blessing that 2 months before she passed away, they were remarried in the church. And when they were originally married, they were married in a courthouse. And she always hated telling that story because people were asked, like, "Oh, tell us about your wedding." And she's, she didn't want to talk about it. So she had this great story of redemption and this great circle that she was able to complete of this relationship with my dad. And that really was contingent upon her relationship with the Lord, and knowing that it wasn't the end all be all if the relationship wasn't perfect with my dad. She didn't kind of fixate on that anymore, because she found this new joy and fearlessness in walking alongside Christ that gives you this power, to understand your life isn't just about, how well your relationships are going. Yes, that's very important. But I think God gives you a spirit of just fearlessness and knowing that everything is going to be okay because he makes you happy and gives you this empowerment of self. And you can rely on yourself to make yourself happy, and then you no longer give your power away. And she had just mastered that completely. No matter how horrible of a day she had, she just always had this like peace about her. And I've never encountered anyone else that has that just like sense of comfort and power and just grace. And I think she had this just very close relationship with God, and he gave that to her. So all of this journey, all of this struggle in the book, she allowed God to change her through all of this. And she didn't just say, "Oh, poor me, I can't believe this happened." She allowed herself to change. She allowed her thoughts to change. She allowed herself to continually reflect on how she wanted to live and how she wanted to treat people. And that happened through this growth, and it wouldn't have happened any other way. So, and that it was just cool to see this mirror of my parents' relationship, but it first started with her changing through her walk, her faith walk.
You know what I think is the most impactful about what you're sharing, because you've seen all 1,000+ pages of the manuscript.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm only in a piece of the story with the book that I've read so far. But what I hear you saying is the legacy really is this complete, authentic, honest story. Like your mom
Very much
held
so.
nothing back in this story.
No, definitely not. Some friends and family members are shocked when they read it at first. They're like, "Oh, we didn't expect this," because my sisters and I, we come off as, very kind and genuine, and you're not expecting this, so much layering and, very raw book. But the feedback that I've gotten some, family members and family friends is just like, thank you so much for that. Like, I really needed to read that. Like, I cried, throughout the book, but the next book won't be as heavy, I swear. But it's just, they really needed to hear this story, and they needed to hear more about my mom, because a lot of people in my life now don't know about my mom. And it's just really amazing to just hear a person's story, that a lot of us go through some of the things that happen, but some of us don't. And it's just this really impactful, and just allows me to be vulnerable, and allows me also to be raw, because I know that's how you have impact with people, is just allowing yourself to say what you mean and to be honest. And that's the way you live with truth. So I think that book is also about integrity and living with a vulnerability, because that's how you go strong, and that's how you have impact with people.
Mm. I'm really amazed at the beauty from the ashes of your mom's experience. Now, as people read the story, it really does start with your mom having this really crazy, unusual situation with her heart, which changes
Yes.
her life on a physical level.
Yes.
But it does seem like it was a catalyst
Mm.
for the emotional level.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
The books, it starts off with 4 heart attacks in the span of 48 hours. So it really just starts off right with, the heart of the matter. And she, in the foreword, she says that looking back, she was looking through pictures of herself, and she wasn't smiling. She didn't have this deep joy within her. And so exactly, this great catalyst stirs up this emotional ability to love deeper and to appreciate a good day when it's a really good day. And when you just really focus on what's going right in your life, in this spirit of gratitude. So this allowed her to have all these emotions that she never experienced before. You've realized how precious, how, really every single moment, and you never know how amazing that is until you know what a really horrible day is. And sometimes people don't have to go through that great catastrophe of a health crisis. But I think what she wants people to really understand through this book is to just, seize the day, live with intention, live with a sense of urgency. You don't have to have great suffering and great crisis in your life to realize that. I think you can manifest that on your own by just simple, gratitude, reflecting on very small things, and really meditating on that and feeling that as deep as possible. Because I don't think you have to deeply carve out your heart in order to feel deep joy. I think everyone has their own story to go through, but you can create that joy for yourself when you really reflect on how beautiful your life is. So, but that's up to you. You have to make that choice. And some people need to go through that, and other people don't. But she wants her story to be able to give that joy to people without going through deep sorrow and suffering.
I feel like her voice before, I don't know that she knew what her voice was. It seems like it's like
Yes.
the health journey. Like her revelation about your dad's affair
Yes.
came after the fact. It's like it was like the beginning of her
Yes.
life in some ways.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And she feels like she had a new life through having the heart attacks. She was always this extremely strong woman. She would, even when she was an owner of a company, and whenever employees weren't acting the way, like, she would still like tell them exactly what they needed to know in this extremely graceful way. Like, I've never seen anything else like it. My sisters and I would look at each other like, is she like kind of reaming this person out right now? And they'd be like, yeah, but no one would really tell because she was saying it in such like a kind way, but they would like get their stuff together for sure. So she always had this like strength about her, but I think this really allowed her to know who she was and what story she wanted to tell and what was most important to her, and just really understanding the character of God and the life that he lived and the person that he was, and that allows you to know the person that he wants you to be. And that's just being still sometimes and reflecting on what life really means. So she was able to really spend that time and be like, hey, how do I want to live my life? Let's regroup. let's change some things. You know, this is a major wake-up call, and other people can have that same wake-up call. You know, I love how you were mentioning before about we can have that same ripple effect, and we can have that same legacy from this day on. You know, how do we want to change the way we talk to our loved ones? How do we want to express unconditional love to our relationships and our loved ones? So it's really about what can we do today from this day on, because that's all we have. We can't reflect on what went wrong in the past. We have to reflect on who we want to be now, and just try to make those goals, tangible goals, and how we can impact people, for sure.
Now tell me, how did this change or impact the relationship you had with your sisters? Because your mom spent that month with you,
Right.
and then
Yes.
you had to carry that over and talk to your sisters and invite them into the journey. How did that go
Right.
for all of you?
Yes, I think so they were all working full time. They work full time for my family business. So they're, you know, they work so hard and they're really incredible with their career. So for me being a sophomore in college, I obviously had a little bit more free time. So they had to get they took about 2 weeks off work as soon as it happened. But they had to really just go back to work and try to carry that burden of being strong at work when you feel horrible, you know? So they had a whole other situation to go through that I at least had that time to process things. And I was very lucky to have that. So I can imagine their side of the story when they had to go back to regular day life. And I kind of felt like I had this fresh chapter with diving into my mom's work. So they didn't have as much time, but I wanted them to be as much a part of it as they wanted to be. So they just really helped editing as well, and as much time as they had, because they have a full-time job. But at least we were all able to come together in a common goal, and to at least have a goal when you wake up in the morning is exactly what you need when you're going through great hardship, you know, and to have such a powerful goal, and kind of collaborate ourselves to the mission of our mother was extremely uniting. You know, we were all grieving differently, but I think we had this mission, and that gave us great purpose. So we were able to kind of utilize all of our strengths and kind of find time for it when we didn't know how we were going to accomplish that, or how long it would take. But it was definitely able to like spark a conversation about our mother when it was a sensitive topic and we didn't necessarily want to talk about it really. So it was all very important. Finishing the book was very important to us, but we didn't really know if we had the emotional capacity right away. But we took it slow, and but I did have more time than they did because they're working full time. So we just tried to allow ourselves to have time to heal. But I think I needed to like dive into what happened because I was just searching for things. So yeah, I needed the book, I think, a little bit more than my sisters did right away, just because, you know, I just wanted to read her words and hear her voice again. So
That was almost then a gift to help you and your family actually process your grief.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a major catalyst for healing. And being able to have some sense of gratitude again when you didn't know what to wake up being grateful for, even though there's so many small things in your day you can be. I was blinded to that, and I was in this, you know, kind of, I was very selfish in my thinking when there's so many other people going through loss in a similar situation, but you think it's all about you and what you're going through. So it really opened up my eyes to how to heal, and also that, wow, there's also so much other pain in this world that it's not just my own, like it helped me get out of myself in a sense. And it was like my mom was walking with me in my pain as I was diving deep into her pain. And so it was like she was supporting me, even though it felt like she was very far away from me. It was like she was back in my life. I had this other version of her, because it was, she was never, she would never just crawl up into bed and just, sit there, and she would never just reflect on the bad happening. She had this complete evolution. So going back in her story, being like, wow, she had these dark days too. She grew into this, such resilient, powerful woman, but this is how she had to get there. So maybe the way I'm feeling is okay right now. Maybe the way I'm thinking and having these, horrible thoughts and thinking I'm not going to make it through the day is okay. Because maybe I'll end up a little bit more like my mom one day. So it was like, okay, I'm okay walking through this darkness right now. I'm going to get through it. And I felt her personality then. And I had this, memory of who my mom was. So you kind of see her story change and her character change throughout the book. But I was able to kind of see both sides of it. So it was like discovering my mom again, which was everything I need. I looked forward to that every single day. I would spend 3 or 4 hours just like, reading it, trying to piece the different pages together, and I would work backwards the same way that she told me to work backwards. And it gave me such joy. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe, she wants me to see all of her and, feel how she is new now too. So it opened up our eyes to understand who she was then, and to try to let go of who we thought she was, in order to have a fresh start on, who she is now. So it's all, this evolution, and it made us realize it's okay if we change, and it's okay if we're not the same people. So it just allowed us to let go and to not move on, but at least move forward and not be so stuck in the past memory of her. Even I cherish that month so much, and that's like some of the most vivid memories for me. But I'm able to feel her and her encouragement still in the different situations I go through now. And I think I was okay with that, because I saw her change in the story, and I saw my grief lift a little, and I didn't think that was possible for the first year. And it was 4 years that I worked on the book. So it was it was a long time for me to be able to know, hey, like, I'll be okay, but I needed that time. I needed that time. So I'm able to kind of like move on and like be okay in my life now, and not feel like a lost child, because that's how I felt for a while.
So where are you at in the process of carrying this legacy of your mom's story forward? We have the first book, A Story of Love.
Yes.
What is next for this next iteration of the story?
Yes, well, I'm trying to spread the word as much as possible about her legacy right now, and about what happened in the first book. But definitely a goal of mine is to probably in the next year to get the next book out there. And she was working on her third. She wanted to break it up into 3 parts. The first part is That Which Doesn't Kill You. The second part is A Silent Voice Sings, and the third part is called Walking Miracles. And that's kind of the more present day writings that she was working on around 2014, 2015. And so I think in that story, I want to incorporate more of my sister's and I journey, as well as my dad's, and how I've seen him change in the last few years. So I really want more of a completion in that third book. So the second book will kind of continue off where it leaves off in the last part of the first book, with just the evolution of our family, and how the relationship changes with my dad. And that also helps my mom's walk with faith. So the third book will kind of complete our walk with losing our mom, and kind of the whole story background, a little bit of what I'm talking about right now. So it should be the last one will complete for sure the whole story.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
And how has this journey changed you?
Oh my gosh. I think definitely finding a joy, a fresh joy that I haven't felt ever. Feeling like she's with me and a part of me. I never have had that experience before. I feel closer to my faith than ever before. And that's something I'm so grateful for. Knowing how much it gives me, because I never knew how much I needed it before. And that is such a blessing, because I hear a lot of struggle in people's lives. What they tell me is I don't feel like I need it. And you try to share how much, I really try to share how much it's changed my life. And they're like, oh, wow, that's really amazing. But I think you need to find faith for your own. And I have finally found that. My mom raised us Catholic Christian, and that was something we always wanted to pursue, because we're like, wow, you're so cool, Mom. Like, how do we be more like you, kind of thing. But it wasn't until she passed away that I was like, wow, this is why you need faith. Like, this is why you need hope. This is why you need encouragement in knowing you're going to overcome what you're going through. And it's knowing you have so much purpose here, because a lot of people, they just want to think about like when they pass away, or like living in heaven, which is incredible, right? But heaven is here, and Christ came down to be with us. And so I've been able to understand the meaning of Emmanuel, God with us. And I never understood what that meant before. So I'm grateful to have that awareness, and knowing how precious the day is, and just trying to live for my mom as well. And being disciplined like her, setting goals, just understanding that my life is such a gift. And just because someone has passed away, I don't have to pass away as well. I felt really dead for a couple years, but I realized like she wants me to live. She gave me this life. She sacrificed everything to raise us the way that she did. Why would I live any less than the way she wants me to live and the way God wants me to live? That's the only tragedy. Losing her is not the tragedy. Me living short of the way she wants me to live, that's tragedy. She wants us to soar. She wants us to shine. And that's what I continually try to focus on every day,
Yeah.
So that's something that it woke me up. And I, we all felt so shocked, and so like we didn't want to live. But then it's like, live. You got to wake up. You got to realize why you're here. And I had to ask that for a very long time, and I'm still asking. But God sends help, and you're constantly given help. So I realized how to ask for things, and it's really been beautiful to see prayers answered, which I've gotten better at praying too. So that's something that's definitely changed the last few years.
I have to agree that I've often wondered how people make it through without faith, because life is so difficult. And like I said before we started recording, it was a very courageous thing that you did to turn and face all of the layers of your mother after she was gone, to really be willing to come into agreement with her dream. and make it your own, but yet you're your own person. And I think that's,
Thank you for that.
yeah, I think that's part of the legacy though, isn't it? She
Definitely.
taught you how to be your own person. Like you're not living
Yes.
your mother's life, right? You're
Right.
sharing her life,
Right.
but becoming your own.
Oh yeah. Yes. And I love how you said to face it, because that's something that she always taught us was, to look up, just face what you're going through, because the shadows are behind you. She would always say that. And I think that's so important, because you're able to see so much more clearly then, and you see yourself, and you see your creator. And um, that's how I've been able to heal, is just being able to face it. And I hope whatever difficult situation people are going through, that they're able to face it and take responsibility for how they live in their actions. And that's something my dad has done extremely well, and taught me so much the last few years too, is just to take responsibility no matter what's going on in your life, and to live as honestly and as open as possible. So he's really incredible at that. And he has, he doesn't fall back on things to help. He's so strong in who he is also. So I'm able to have my dad, and I've gained a parent in a way. And I have this incredible relationship with my dad too. And that's something that through the story, she talks about her own relationship with her dad. And I was named after my grandfather. So she always wanted me to have this super close relationship with my dad. So I've been able to have that and walk with him and just kind of mourn together. And it's really this beautiful process when you realize you're not alone, and you can make it. You can feel really alone, but that's totally your choice. And I think you always want to feel like you're alone sometimes. So when you have that help, you feel rescued. But it's always a choice, and you can reach out, and people want to help you. I've realized that, so as long as you're open and you're truthful about what you're going through, it's so beautiful, because you see this spirit of people wanting to rescue you in a way. But God's also really rescued me and rescued our family the last few years. So yeah, it's a choice to ask for that help and just be grateful to receive it when you do. So yeah, the right people have definitely been in my life, and I'm so thankful for that.
It's an incredible legacy. And I think that that's the overarching theme that I get
Mm.
from, the time that we've spent together and what you've shared with me about your
Yes.
mom, and what if, somebody is living their life right now
Yes.
and maybe getting lost in that.
Mm.
From a daughter's perspective, from looking at your mother's life and the gift that
Yeah.
she's given you of legacy, what kind of encouragement can you give to
Mhm.
people?
I think the love that you're receiving, and even if you're not receiving the love you want, you have what you need inside of you, um, and you have God always with you. And my mother, I'm so blessed to have that love of God come through her and pour into my life. But I think no matter if you have that person in your life, if you have no one showing you who God is, just simply ask for God to reveal himself to you, and he will not let you down. He wants to be there for you. He wants to pull you in for a big bear hug. So I had that in my mom. But when she hasn't been here, I've known God to just come for you. But you have to, ask for that. So I think that is really just the big message, that even if you're in a super dark place, like, you're never alone. And even if you don't feel like you have anyone, which I guarantee there is someone who can be there, um, just ask to feel God's comfort and ask him to be with you, and he'll be with you. So yeah, I think
That's
that's the most important thing to remember.
I couldn't agree more. So, Jacqueline, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your mother's story, just the journey that you've been on. And again, I honor you for the courage that it took
Thank you.
to, we have these ideas about our parents, but to be able to like literally see the deep, dark parts as well as what we
Yes.
imagine
Right.
that they are. That took great courage for you to pick up that mantle and being willing to
Thank you.
face those things.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you. So today, friends, this story is so powerful. So please subscribe down below, and I will have a link to this book, A Story of Love by Melissa Malcolm-Peck, who is Jacqueline's mother. And think about these things today. Share them with a friend who might be going through a dark season of life, and really recognize that this human condition, it's not as different. We're not as different as we think we are from the people around us. And living a life of legacy like Melissa did, passing that on to her daughters, how can we be more intentional and be legacy-minded people in the lives that we live? So thank you so much for joining us for this message today. Again, subscribe down below so you don't miss any more messages. Click the link, get a copy of this book, share it with your friends, and allow your life to shine a little brighter today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Take care.